Earlier today, I scissor-kicked a man on the subway. Then I burnt down his house and left an upper decker in his putty. Why, you might ask? Because if there is no God, then we can do whatever we want. Right?
No.
Hello, sinners. I'm Derek Bennett, and this is Atheologica. Before we rip into this topic like the murderous psychopaths we are, be sure to like and subscribe for more content about the existence of God, biblical criticism, and Christian origins. The God of love and mercy will thank you for it. Atheists are among the most stigmatized people in society. In fact, a study from just 10 years ago revealed that atheists are even more distrusted than rapists. Hopefully, we've made some progress since then, but it remains the case that you would be hard-pressed to run for public office while making known your unbelief. After all, what basis is there for morality without the guiding hand of God Almighty? If there is no divine authority figure, why be good at all? As Dostoevsky famously quipped in The Grand Inquisitor, if there is no God, then all things are permitted. We hear it time and again from Christian theologians and apologists that without God, there simply is no standard, no fundamental foundation for moral behavior, that an atheist is merely a hypocrite for condemning wrongful acts, including those committed by God in the Bible.
Where do you get this sense of justice? Because if you don't believe that there is a lawgiver who rules over all, why are you upset and appealing to a law that you deny exists? If there's no one up there and there's no rules or laws governing us, why are you upset and what are you appealing to? Everybody who doesn't believe in the lordship of Jesus Christ and gets angry is a hypocrite. If there's nobody over us and no laws over us, what the heck are you appealing to with your frustration?
Well, if you haven't been keeping up with ancient events, then you may be unaware that this line of reasoning, known as divine command theory, is fatally flawed. In fact, it was basically refuted about 2,400 years ago by none other than Plato. In his famous dialogue between Socrates and Euthyphro, a philosophical quandary is posed thusly: is what is morally good commanded by God because it is morally good? Or is it morally good because it is commanded by God? Known as the Euthyphro dilemma, the problem boils down to this: if something is morally good simply because it is commanded by God, then morality is arbitrary. God could decide tomorrow that murder and rape are morally acceptable, and voila, it would be. On the other hand, if God commands what is already morally good, then morality exists independently of God. He is not the source or creator of morality, not the one who determines right from wrong, but at best, one who dispenses a system of ethics that transcends his own authority. In response, theists attempt to wiggle their way out of the dilemma by suggesting that God's very nature or character is good, so that he would never condone such wicked acts as rape or murder. But then all we have to do is reformulate the question, a la philosopher Michael Martin. Is God's character the way it is because it is good? Or is it good simply because it is God's character? The dilemma stands as God's character remains subject to an external definition of what is moral or good. Why is this? It's because morality is an abstraction or social contract produced collectively by sentient beings, and to which all sentient beings are subject. And it's something that naturally arises on a pragmatic basis for the sake of order and harmony within any civilized society, driven by reason, reciprocity, cooperation, and empathy. This is abundantly clear from a historical perspective. Long before Moses is said to have received the Ten Commandments at Mount Sinai, The Babylonian ruler Hammurabi was said to have received the law from Shamash, the supreme god of morality, truth, and justice. Like the Ten Commandments, the Code of Hammurabi condemned theft, adultery, and bearing false witness, even stipulating an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
The Lord Jehovah has given unto you these 10 commandments for all to obey.
Such transgressions are implicitly condemned in the negative confessions of ancient Egypt, whereby the deceased stood trial before the throne of Osiris and declared that they had not stolen, lied, murdered, or blasphemed the gods. Well before the biblical God was said to impart these laws to Moses, man had already begun working out the fundamental intricacies of justice, law, and order, and merely codified these laws within religious structures. As sociologist Emil Durkheim argued, a society's God is simply a fictive projection of the society itself. Its laws are ascribed to that God in order to give them an infallible clout that a merely human origin would supposedly lack. The reality, though, is that God is neither the source of morality nor a necessary explanation for its existence. We human beings were plenty well capable of working all of that out on our own.
Don't you think people would have gotten together and said, you know what, let's not slaughter each other and let's not take each other's stuff?
Of course, Christians love to cite Romans 2, suggesting that moral laws were written on our hearts by God, so that this explains why pre-Mosaic Gentiles behaved accordingly. But here's the problem from a scriptural standpoint. The book of Jeremiah depicts God inscribing his laws on the hearts of men sometime after the exile to Babylon, around the 6th century BC. Yet the Babylonians and Egyptians had already codified their laws at least 1,000 years beforehand. Ruh-roh. But let's imagine for a moment the sheer absurdity of suggesting that the biblical God is the supreme author of morality. A God who demands the extermination of men, women, and children, who delights in the retaliatory act of seizing infants and dashing them against rocks, of violating the wives of Israel's enemies, even orchestrating the brutal death of dozens of children by savage bears, merely for having mocked one of his prophets. This is a ferociously partisan, bloodthirsty, and vengeful deity, not one bound by any high-minded or all-encompassing moral code. Theists will typically defend such verses in one of three ways. One, by suggesting that those were different times, thus invoking moral relativism and destroying their own case for an objective morality stemming from God. Two, by appealing to context, of which there simply isn't any to justify such depravity. And three, by pleading that was the Old Testament, or Jesus changed all that, tacitly admitting that the God they ostensibly worship was once horrible and in need of change, which further contradicts any claims to the immutable and unchanging character of God. Suffice it to say that neither God nor the Bible serve as the basis for morality. But it is also true that on atheism, morality does not have a cosmic or metaphysical basis. It's not something that is written into the fabric of the universe, but neither does it need to be. You see, how we treat each other may not matter on a metaphysical level. It's all the same to the cosmic void whether we live in harmony or hasten our own demise. But the point is, it matters to us. We care about one another, and if we are wise, seek to treat others in the manner that we wish to be treated, a philosophy that long predates Christ. For non-believers especially, it is in the absence of a loving God that we embrace this simple truth. All we have is each other, and that's enough. No posthumous incentives, no heavenly rewards or threats of damnation. are necessary to know that love, fairness, and compassion are the better way, that they are their own reward. Deep down, I think that's what truly motivates all of us, no matter what our faith or creed. So, to all those Christian theologians who ask us non-believers, what is the basis for your morality? Ultimately, it's the same as yours. You just don't know it. But here's the question I'd like to ask them. Hypothetically, if you discovered tomorrow that there is no God, would you then proceed to murder, rape, steal, lie, and cheat your way through life? To live like a lawless savage? Pastor Rick Warren once said that if death were the final word, if there were no God and no afterlife, then he wouldn't waste another minute on altruistic behavior. But you know what? I don't believe him for a second.
We're going streaking! Yeah! We're going streaking through the quad and into the gymnasium. Come on, everybody!
Once again, thanks for watching. Smash that like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future content. It's the right thing to do. You can also support me on Patreon, for which I'll happily give you a much welcome shout out. Big thanks, by the way, to my current patrons, Bryant Heilman, Kristen Whitaker Hood, and Derek Lambert of MythVision. Till next time, be good for goodness' sake. Look, none of us are perfect. We all have our faults. Life is a long and arduous journey with many hard lessons to teach us. But if you strive to be a better person today than you were yesterday, that's progress, my friends. I've got to go unclog that guy's toilet now.